Over here back with another video. So there's a big update going on right now um, for the Hydra. Big changes coming in. We were informed about this a couple of days ago as part of a discussion with the developers. They told us about the changes that are coming to Hydra, TRUNDA, the shields. Basically, things are changing for the better, I would say, for the Hydra, making things more balanced in the sense of what the top, let's say, two versions of teams can do compared to everything else that we currently have. In terms of the average runs, like the average Hydra run that you would see be from a Trunda team would be in the billions, the tens of billions of damage, making clans basically go crazy over the damage that Trunda would do. Same thing would go basically with how teams would work with basically Danica and utilizing shields, extending of the shields, and how taunt works, making sort of team go on and make, again, tens of billions of damage to the Hydra, making these teams basically a necessity for anybody trying to compete in Hydra Clash. With that being said, they've just launched a video with the update review on what is happening to the Hydra. So I'm going to watch it together and just comment on everything as we go through it. And I'll give you guys my thoughts, of course, along the way in terms of my opinion and whether these changes are, going to be relevant, whether things are actually going to be changing. Of course, I'll try to test them out when the time comes. But until then, we'll just have to watch the video.
Hey everyone, we've got a different kind of update preview for you today. We're showing off some balance changes coming to the Hydra and a few other areas of the game. Along the way, we'll explain why we're making these changes, but here's a quick overview. The current meta is way too limiting to players who don't have specific champions in their collection. We want you to experiment with different...
That's actually true, is what I said. Basically, the top two teams that would, basically the best ones out of every other one are those, like the Trunda and the Yannicka teams. Okay, WIXWELL are also in those teams. It just happened to be because of the shield extension, how everything works. So if you basically don't have those champions, you are limited in terms of both participating in end game clans, because they might just limit to 30 players that do have the Trunda team working, or you would be limited because, well, you don't have all the exact pieces those teams work. So getting these teams rebalanced is the way to go.
Tactics and teams, switching things up each week. Let's dive in and take a closer look at what's coming. First up, we're setting the turn limit at 1,000 turns. Auto-battling the Hydra can easily take over an hour, so we're aiming to cut down the time by at least half an hour. You'll now need to build teams that do damage faster, rather than teams...
Honestly, it doesn't change anything bad. In terms of dealing damage faster, it's not going to change anything. Basically, the teams that do 1,500 turns, now they're going to do 1,000 turns. Damage is pretty much the same. It's just going to speed up things in terms of how the heads will be devouring your champions and how fast that's going to be happening. So that's going to be changing. Honestly, it's going to be for the better just because of the time and how time will be affected for us when we are in the Hydra runs, because we have to do 3 per week. These are now much shorter, which honestly, from the video, this is not much shorter, being 50 minutes instead of an hour 30. It's still quite long, but I mean, anything is a bonus,
built
right?
for a war of attrition. With a few adjustments, you'll have no problem reaching the damage numbers needed to get your usual rewards. Moving on.
That's good.
We're changing how the Serpent's will buff works. Most importantly, and brace yourselves folks, it now reduces damage by 100% for a newly grown Hydra head. Yep, you read that right. Complete damage reduction. You won't be able to nuke a newly grown head straight out of the gate anymore. Hold on.
For that one, I'm totally okay with, because basically for that one, the only situation that would be beneficial would be the Trunda teams, right? So the Trunda teams would completely take down the heads without even considering the Serpent's Will buff. So if that's gonna completely help the heads just stay alive, it's basically just straight up a nerf to the Trunda. But again, they even have more changes coming. So let's...
Oh no, there's good news too. If 2 heads regrow at the same time, only one of them will get the Serpent's Will buff. Champions have gotten stronger since the Hydra initially reared its heads. What with Awakening and Power...
Actually, that's pretty good because only one serpent will buff. So if you kill them at the same time, basically only one will be protected. The other three will be fine. That's totally cool. Sometimes you would be in a situation where all heads would be up at the same time and all of them would have that 75% damage reduction. It would just make the run kind of miserable until those 2 turns just went through. So the turns with the serpents will buff went through. So this is actually
Empowerment and mythical
really
champions
nice.
joining the fray. We were seeing Hydra heads nuked as soon as they rejoined the battle, even with the 75% damage reduction.
That's true.
So, to make the fight even and bring back some of the challenge that's been lost due to the game's evolution, the Hydra is getting a little stronger too. We're also making changes to digestion and devouring. You know how late on in the battle your champions start getting digested on a 2-turn countdown? Well,
Right.
for every subsequent time they get digested after that first 2-turn countdown, the damage you'll need to do to free your champion increases. Like with Serpent's Will, digestion and
Yeah, because if you have a look at that, this change actually makes the runs even more challenging, way more challenging than before. Because now the damage that you'll need to do is significantly higher, right, to free those champions. So you can't really run teams where you don't have enough damage dealers, so you're just depending on maybe one or damage dealers to do your whole damage. It's basically going to be impossible to get your champion back if you're going to do that. So this is a good change in the sense of we're going to be making different teams have more damage overall.
devouring lost
I'm
much of
totally
its
okay.
intended challenge over time as more powerful champions and features were introduced. It was always meant to be one of the Hydra's key mechanics and an ever-present threat. But it became
is.
really easy to rescue allies that were being digested. So, we're bringing that fear back into digestion. Taunts won't help anymore either. The Hydra has shed its thin skin, and petty insults will no longer distract it from a delicious cheer.
So, well, primarily Emic teams, also with the Shag, the fusion champion, those became prevalent in the Hydra because of the taunt and how taunt basically forced the Hydra interactions to happen. What they're doing now is basically making taunt pretty much irrelevant. So let's
Champion
have a
meal
look.
sat right in front of it. In short, once a champion receives the mark of the Hydra
yeah.
debuff, they become public enemy #1. And Taunt isn't going to do anything about it. Taunt is a cool mechanic, but new champion combinations emerged that could totally negate the mark of the Hydra. Less cool. It's not all bad.
So basically, didn't show it right here in the video, but basically, put taunt up. It won't matter if the turn count goes to 0. The champion that is devoured will be devoured. So that's what's gonna happen.
Bad news, though. Your team's AI will now prioritize attacking the head that is digesting when you're running in
Finally,
auto battle mode. Teamwork makes the dream work. Exposed necks are also getting a rework. From now on, exposed necks will have a set HP value that is double the original head's HP. Once that value reaches 0, the head will immediately regrow. With constantly regrowing Hydra heads, you'll need to think on your feet and have tactics in place for all potential scenarios. Oh, man. Hydra battles are about to get much tougher. But
So how exposed heads are gonna work is gonna be different now. But again, making it a whole new challenge basically. Hydra gets rebalanced in a way that it's gonna be completely new in terms of the team building, which I'm totally welcome to. As long as there's no teams that just become like the new TRUNDA team with an immense difference from #1, #2 in terms of damage potential, and the top 10 teams, right? So if that's what happens, and like we have these sort of teams, then it kind of sucks. And if it takes them years to actually nerf this thing, it sucks. So the quicker they address this kind of thing, and then we have like a proper top 10 teams list where it's really comparable. Maybe one does like 5-10 billion damage more than the other. That is totally acceptable with the best of the best of the best gear and champions and empowerments and awakening.
the changes don't stop there. We've got a few more lined up to help keep things balanced, starting with shields. Shields will now receive a cap of 1 million points. This cap is separate for shields placed by artifacts and shields placed by skills, though. So you could get up to 2 million points of shield. These caps are still big enough to ensure powerful builds remain viable for
Let's see
taking
how
on the
this
Demon Lord and the
this
Hydra,
way
but they'll not be as
they're saying it.
game-breaking as before. And last
Right. So the shields change that he mentions right now totally changes on how the Yannicka teams would work with the shields being stolen. The Yannicka would explode those shields, do big damage. Those teams are nerfed because of that. So WIXWELL, we don't know exactly yet how big the nerf is going to be. They did mention though that if the nerf is significant enough, then they will try to adjust that number for the shield to be a little bit higher. So if 2 million, be a little bit higher in order to help the team, push your teams survive. So just have to have that in mind.
Lastly, we
Hopefully
come to
it's
everyone's
enough.
favorite dwarven warrior herself, Trunda Guilt Mallet.
Right.
Don't worry, we're not nerfing her into oblivion. We're just rebalancing some of her skills to
We'll
keep
see
her
about that.
damage numbers in Hydra battles more reasonable. Starting with her default skill, Golden Mallet, Trunda will now have a 50% chance to place a stun debuff on both hits.
I
A
like
little
it.
upgrade, but a neat one for PvP. Trunda's second skill, Cloak of Ages, will now ignore 50% of each target's defense on her second hit. However, the caveat here is that it will only ever be a normal hit. It's still big damage, but it won't be quite as astronomical as they have been before. Forge
It's gonna be good damage. I think the players who have invested in Trunda will still see a potential in her. Highly doubt though that a player who has like a 6-star awakened Trunda with +4 empowerment is still gonna be using Trunda team. I don't think it's gonna be that strong in order to clear the heads and those billions of damage. By no means I do think it's gonna work. I would have to test it, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it's gonna work the same way. Even with the resets, even at the top of the Trundas, it's not gonna have enough damage. With the normal head, get through heads and also get through heads that have been buffed, their health's basically buffed. So basically Trunda teams are dead, but more changes are coming to Trunda, basically making her more
Rhythm.
powerful for
Trunda's
other
third skill
situations.
now places consistent HP burn debuffs, and both hits from this skill deal 50% more damage to enemies under a stone skin shield. Another neat boost to her overall kit. And
So basically now Trunda gets proper HP burn on her skills, does not make it so that her double hit does not happen. That used to be the case. So now accuracy could work on Trunda, would help with the Hydra damage with the HP burns. It's so much nicer actually. But overall, I don't think it's gonna be as strong as you. Maybe running double Trunda as we see here might be the way to go.
And finally, her passive skill now increases Trunda's attack by 5% for each stun or HP burn debuff.
So what he says is wrong. By the way, it's 10%. It shows right there, but 10% buff for each stun or HP burn, basically turned 50 stronger by the time she uses times her skill, right? So strong. HP burns are gonna be applied so quickly for certain areas of the game. Might even be like I guess you could use her for hard mode spider, but again, gonna be still doing solid damage. The change to her damage from Stone Skin is gonna be great. Overall attack boost is gonna be great. I don't think people are gonna be using her in PvP against Stone Skin targets. Basically, they're gonna be still using if they want to go through Stone, they're gonna be using bombs or specifically awakened champions. Awakened take down the Stone Skin faster, but I don't think this is
She
gonna
places
happen
on enemies. Her speed will still be
with
increased as well,
Trunda.
both
I
by
think it's a
stun
nice
and
addition,
HP
but
burn debuffs. All in all, Trundle isn't going anywhere. We still expect her to be an excellent choice for Hydra battles and the arena. We tested a ton of early, mid, and late game champion rosters and team compositions when making these changes. Our results showed things will get better.
right. So if this is supposed to be like the better version of Trunda, please remember that 280 million damage, the +4 awakened, proper, probably really strong Trunda from this account that they tested on. They did mention to us that they copy our account, so they probably took somebody's account that had this kind of Trunda, and then they tried to replicate some damage. Maybe they didn't know how to run it, but still, 280 million damage compared to what some teams can do right now is just crazy. Maybe this is also like a little bit bitter in terms of the players who invested on Trundas and they had Awakening boost in terms of summons on her, 10x's, 15x's to get copies of her. So this is kind of the way that these games work with nerfing champions that you invest money on. It feels like you lose your money more so than actually lose them regardless. But you know, going from doing, I think my run on Trunda, my biggest run was like 30 billion, dropping to 300 million. That's an insane damage reduction. But still, um, could use her somewhere else. But still, I think the Trunda teams are dead. Trunda teams are dead. Yannicka teams are dead, pretty much. So that's it. I'm all in for this kind of change. I kind of like it, to be honest. The thing I like the most is the limitation of the turns dropping from 1,500 to 1,000. It's just that things might change a little bit now with how certain mechanics work with the shields increasing and how you should be more attentive to be targeting those. Assuming though that the AI change that they're going to introduce works, should be okay, right?
You'll still be able to earn Hydra chests and milestone rewards in Hydra Clash. And you'll spend less time fighting the Hydra each week. As always, we'll be keeping an eye on your feedback and monitoring game data to see how these changes affect Hydra battles overall. We hope this preview has been useful for you and will help you prepare for more battles against the Hydra.
One more thing we told them basically, soulstones and soulstone rewards, that better rewards through the Hydra, through the soulstones. Obviously, they're not going to do anything about it, but I just wanted to add this as part of like closing in the video on how different their approach is to the Hydra, to the game. I do like the fact that they're of quality of life. We need more of those. Maybe in the future, maybe we have more things to for updates in the future. This was their video, guys. I talked about this a little bit more, but um, regardless of what you guys think in terms of these changes, I think these are proper rebalances needed to happen. Happened too late because these should have happened like a year ago. The Yannicka team didn't pop up into this quickly. I would say it should have happened when it was, realized, and they added it even in some of their raid digests. So that's when it should happen. But still good enough. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you all. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one.